welcome to an extended edition of Weather Underground. I'm Mark Elliott, filling in tonight for Mike Bettis. We've got lots to cover while the boss is away. So let's get right on into what's on tap tonight. Mars on the move, a nightmare cruise, and a new winter storm. As if the current one wasn't enough, right? First, Mars hits the Northeast. Winter storm Mars has brought blizzard conditions to parts of the Northeast. And the impacts, they're not over yet. We're tracking the latest snowfall totals, the coastal flooding threats, and the wind. Also, Nightmare Cruise, one of the world's largest cruise ships, tossed around like a toy boat as it was slammed by high winds and waves. We're going to ask the passengers about their scary experiences on board, and with the storm so well forecast, why didn't the cruise line avoid this fiasco? And finally, Winter Storm Nacio. Impacts from the latest winter storm could be felt as far south as Georgia, as far north as New York. We'll tell you how much snow is expected and when. But let's start things off with Mars and dozens of people that are injured after their charter bus overturned on I-95 in Madison, Connecticut. The Dahlia charter bus was headed to a Connecticut casino when it rolled over between an exit and an on-ramp. There were 2 to 3 inches of snow on the road at the time, and the highway had to be shut down for more than 4 hours. 55 people on the bus, about half of them sought treatment for injuries. At least 4 of those people in critical condition still. So yeah, this was a big-time winter storm. The timing could not be worse. We had several rush hours impacted. Storm specialist Sarah Dillingham, this is big-time snow on the heels of yet another, right?
Right, Mark. I mean, it's been a busy weekend for much of the Northeast, and unfortunately, this active pattern is going to continue, and it's not really going to slow down. We now have another winter storm named already, so we're going to get to that here in just a few moments. But take a look at what Mars has done so far. This is just over the last 24 hours, and these reports are updated a couple of hours ago, so we've got to check these again as we go through the night. 9 inches so far. That's the top total that we've seen reported thus far here in Massachusetts. But you see, even in portions of Rhode Island and in Connecticut, still 4 to 6 inches in a lot of those spots.
Epic gradient from the coast to Boston, for example. Only 2 inches in Boston, which isn't nothing.
Yeah, not that much. So certainly they got more than that over this past weekend with Lexi as that came through. So let's take a look at what they could maybe be expecting as we go through the overnight hours. And if I can see if
it's trying. There we go.
I knew it wanted to. Oh, and it skipped my. Can you go back to? Okay, we're going to have Ryan go back because Mark, we cannot skip this. Okay, so this underwent rapid cyclogenesis. Okay, so rapid deepening, dropped 27 millibars in 24 hours.
Wow.
All right, so this was definitely what we call a bomb here. So we still have winter weather advisories, still blizzard warnings in effect for portions of the Cape, Mark, as those wind gusts have been 45 to 50, even up to 60 miles per hour potentially here along the Cape.
And still new snow falling, even though the winds could be picking up snow that's already on the ground too.
Yeah, that definitely could happen. And again, we know that that's one of the criteria. It doesn't have to be snowing, just has to be reduced visibility less than 1/4 of a mile for 3 hours with 35 mile per hour sustained winds.
All right.
And there's your forecast totals for the rest of this evening. Boston, maybe 2 inches still.
A couple more inches still to come. And one of the areas hardest hit by the storm in southern Massachusetts, Mike Seidel has been braving the snow and the fierce winds and harsh conditions all day in Plymouth. Mike.
Hey Mark, it's been a wild day out here in Plymouth County and all the way down to the Cape and out on the islands. Blizzard conditions unofficially verified by the Weather Service in Boston, here in Plymouth, down to Chatham, also Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard. We're getting wind gusts consistently over 35. In fact, many areas gusting to 50 or more. Nantucket close to 60. Out in Martha's Vineyard, nearly 9 inches of snow, and on the Cape too, topping out last report at about 9 inches of snow. A lot of blowing and drifting, especially this afternoon as the temperature tumbled from above freezing this morning when it started down to the mid-20s. You can see where I'm standing. It's basically bare ground, and you walk over here and you get into one of these drifts. And now you throw it up and you can see what we're concerned about even this evening and tonight, even as the winds die down. We'll take you back to mid-afternoon. This is about 3 o'clock video we shot out here in front of the restaurant, and we do appreciate the folks here at the East Bay Grill. And look at the visibility. Look how it's just down to about a block or two. The winds at that point gusting over 40 miles an hour, causing near whiteout conditions. And then this morning, look at this. The parking lot here, the Plymouth Harbor parking lot, went underwater at high tide just after 10:30. That water came in with those winds and filled up the lot. Not nearly as serious as last year's first storm, Juno, on the 27th, when this whole area dealt with storm surge. The winds will die down overnight tonight. By tomorrow morning, 10 to 20 miles an hour. Boston Public Schools will open on Tuesday. Here in Plymouth County, they'll make the call tomorrow morning early at 5:45. Mark, back to you.
Thanks, Mike. And of course, we're taking a live look now at Philadelphia. Temperatures dropping quickly. The snow is going to be moving into the Philadelphia area, so 42 degrees. But again, those pavement temps are going to drop pretty fast as that cold air moves in. There's another winter storm on the way. Winter storm Ignacio expected to bring snow to the mid-Atlantic. Storm specialist Carl Parker here. This fits the pattern that we are in across the east.
Yeah, that's really it. You've got this big ridge trough pattern, which is exactly what we saw last winter incessantly. This winter we haven't seen as much of it, but we're going to have plenty of cold air in place, and you're going to see a little trough of low pressure developing. So let's show you how this evolves. It's actually a couple of areas of low pressure, a couple of centers, one over the lakes and one along the coast. And that little purple dashed line in between is what we call a trough. That's an elongated area of low pressure, and that is what's going to bring us that snow across the D.C. Baltimore area tomorrow. It's not going to be that strong. It's not going to be that heavy, but it's going to be enough to cause problems, and right during the morning and afternoon rush hours in both of those cities.
And so right there from off the coast with the rain and then back towards the Ohio Valley, that's the trough. It's basically the focal point for the snow to set up.
Exactly right. So there's 9 o'clock in the morning. Snow's coming down there around the Beltway, right up to 70, right up 29, 95. More of the same into Baltimore into the evening. Then it lifts up a little farther, more towards the Poconos and Allentown and southern Jersey. So this is what we're thinking in terms of accumulation. It's going to be heavier in the mountains most likely, and then in the D.C. metro, a few inches in northern Virginia, and then more as you get up towards Baltimore and the north side of D.C. Here's a closer look. So a lot of those areas that were just clobbered by Jonas, not getting that much this time. But here you go into Howard County and Arundel County, right up into the Baltimore Beltway, talking about maybe half a foot of snow all told, and then a fair amount also up 83 there into York and Lancaster counties, and more of the same into the Philly metro.
Some wiggle room there, right? It's a small scale feature. What if that trough were to wiggle just a little bit?
I think absolutely there's wiggle room there. I mean, this is really all about persistence. It's the idea that it's going to last for a long time, but it's not going to be all that heavy, we don't think.
Although meteorologically, not a surprise at all to see another storm in the east, and that's because of the record-setting pattern in the west. When we come back, Carl Parker and I are going to head up to the lab to talk about the extreme high pressure in the west and what to expect from that across the rest of the nation. Plus, coming up, nightmare at sea. A massive cruise ship gets blasted by a powerful winter storm. It's on its way back to port now with 4,000 shaken passengers still on board. We're going to talk live to one of those passengers about just how bad it got. Should the cruise line have changed course or stopped the course much earlier? We'll dive into those questions as Weather Underground rolls on.
I think we should have taken a left at the river.
Tarzan, no. Where Tarzan go?
Tarzan does not know where Tarzan go. Hey, excuse me, do you know where the waterfall is? Waterfall?
No. Me, Tarzan, king of jungle.
Why don't you want to just...
If you're a couple, you fight over directions. It's what you do. If you want to save 15% or more on car insurance, you switch to Geico. It's what you do.
You have to do that right in my ear.
Moved into this? Make it look like this. Let's check out our options. Give it some style. Perfect. Now, let's detail it. Let's put our ideas to work and step into a new favorite room. Let's do this. Buy vanities in-store and online today, starting at just $139. The Home Depot. More saving, more doing.
You're my buddy, my pal, my friend. It will be that way until the end. And wherever you go, I want you.
Making the most out of every mile. That's why I got a Subaru Impreza.
Love. It's what makes a Subaru a Subaru.
To truly feel healthy on the outside, you have to feel healthy at your core. True Biotics, a probiotic from One A Day, naturally helps support both your digestive and immune health by combining 2 types of good bacteria. True Biotics. Be true to your health.
Here's something new. Now you can get the Weather Channel forecast on the new LL Bean app. Just tap, shop, and discover. The new app from LL Bean, featuring forecasts from the Weather Channel. Download today.
There's a place for vacationers who seek more than just a little time off. The ones who choose to go big or stay home.
Come with me now.
Where every amazing, despicable, wizarding adventure reveals moments that are truly epic. This place is made for those who do more than just vacation.
Go with me now.
It's made for those who vacation like they mean it. Universal Orlando Resort.
Attention!
If you took Xarelto or Pradaxa and then suffered uncontrolled bleeding, call the Goldwater Law Firm. You may be entitled to substantial compensation. Call 1-800-682-6300. That's 1-800-682-6300.
Now you can create your own tour of Italy at Olive Garden, starting at $12.99. Choose 3 of 10 favorites to enjoy on one plate, plus unlimited salad and breadsticks. The best tour of Italy is the one you create at Olive Garden.
Don't miss Founders Days at Pep Boys. Buy 2 Rain-X Latitude water repellency wiper blades and get $10 off instantly. And when you buy 3 select tires, you get the 4th free instantly. Trust the boys to get you there.
I'm Jesse Owens.
You're the fastest man on the earth.
You want to win a gold medal in Berlin, even under the Hitler regime? You get a chance, you're going to walk away from it? I got people looking at me for an example. I don't care about any of that. Well, you're white. You don't have to.
Running some type of direction.
People telling me I can't do it. I want it twice as bad now.
Rated PG-13.
Tomorrow on AMHQ, snow and cold greet the voters in New Hampshire as they head out to the polls. Will it have an effect on the turnout? Plus, the flakes will fly into the south. Just how far below the Mason-Dixon line will they go?
All right, for the second year in a row, the M-named winter storm hammers New England on the very same day of the year. Last year, Winter Storm Marcus, 2 feet of snow on Boston. This year, Winter Storm Mars. We got heavy snow and strong winds. Turns out the pattern that caused both of these storms is similar, even eerily similar in the 2 separate years. And it's all because of what's happening thousands of miles away. A huge ridge in the west driving this whole pattern. Carl Parker in the lab with me.
Yeah, and this is what we saw last year, Mark. So this is last December through February, and we had this huge ridge trough pattern. Big ridge in the west, no weather coming in there, a lot of cold weather in the east, and it was very persistent. It went on for a long, long period of time.
And as soon as that pattern kicks in, it's much easier to get those storms to come around the base of the trough and up the east coast. And that's why we're seeing the storm pattern now.
Exactly. And so we wanted to talk about what are called heights in the atmosphere. And this is basically the thickness of the atmosphere, which has everything to do with temperature. Warm air expands, cold air contracts. So when we talk about 500 millibars, which generally sits at about 18,000 feet or about 5,500 meters, if the atmosphere is colder generally, then that thickness, that pressure surface is going to be lower, maybe down to 5,400, which by the way is that critical thickness where we look for freezing precipitation. And then if you get up here, you notice that it's a much thicker atmosphere, it's a much warmer atmosphere, and you're talking about 5880 there, or 588 decameters, which is exactly what we're seeing right now across the Pacific Northwest.
And so that directly corresponds not only to the temperatures, but to the ridge trough pattern that we've got in place.
Exactly right. You've got an unusually strong ridge across the west, and that's a lot of what we saw last season. We saw so much ridging across the west. So this is where we've got that 588 ridge in the northwest, and then concordantly there's a terrific dip in the jet stream that's allowing cold air to spill southward, and that sets the stage for winter weather, which we may see more of through the upcoming week.
And we keep track of these heights through time. I mean, we know that because of this huge ridge, we had record heights in the Pacific Northwest just this past weekend.
Exactly right, and we will likely see record values through the course of this week. So we wanted to show you the forecast and show you what this means for us. So here we are looking at today, and again, there's this really big ridge in the west, very thick atmosphere because it's a warmer atmosphere, so you've got much higher heights right here, you've got much lower heights right in here, so a really pronounced ridge trough pattern, and that was dominant last season. We haven't seen as much of it this year, but we are seeing it now. And then when we go forward in time here, you notice that the ridging really doesn't go away that much. Now we're hoping that we can beat this ridge down going into, say, March. It doesn't look like it's going to happen soon, but we're we're hoping it can happen so we can bring more weather into the West Coast. But in the short term, next couple of weeks, we're not seeing that. So you've got the ridging continuing and the troughing continuing, and another big wave of cold is going to come down late this week, Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday, and that may set the stage for another very strong storm across the Northeast. More snow potentially in the Northeast.
And it really is the record ridging that controls what's happening downstream.
Yes.
We know about the West even more so than we know about the cold. This is the easily forecasted persistent pattern, and that's just the what happens down the line.
Right, they're very much related, completely interrelated, and it was the fact that we saw so much of this ridging in the West that led to the drought in the West, but also led to our terribly cold winter, and now we're starting to see that edge back up. It's crazy because we thought that El Nino would really beat that down, which it did for a while, but now that's not happening.
And so now we're back in that same pattern, and it's why we're getting so many storms across the east. In fact, parts of the east are bracing for that double shot of snow. Luckily for the Northeast, this next system is expected to stay just a bit further south. So just ahead, we'll time out the storm and tell you who's in store for a second dose of winter and what it all means for your travels tomorrow.
Can you satisfy your craving for a delicious 100% Alaskan cod meal? Right here at Long John Silver's. Enjoy our tasty 2-piece hand-battered Alaskan cod basket, hand-dipped in our classic batter, now for just $5.99. Because at Long John Silver's, you deserve more.
Hey, need fast heartburn relief? Try Cool Mint Zantac. It releases a cooling sensation in your mouth and throat. Zantac works in as little as 30 minutes. Nexium can take 24 hours. Try Cool Mint Zantac. No pill relieves heartburn faster.
All we need to sell Strongbow Hard Cider is ice. Oh, and an award for best tasting hard cider. You're in our shot.
No, I'm not.
Strongbow!
Don't let a cracked windshield ruin your plans. Trust SafeLight. With SafeLight's exclusive On My Way text, you'll know exactly when we'll be there, giving you more time for what matters most.
SafeLight Repair, SafeLight Replace.
The Citi Double Cash Card comes in very handy with cash back twice on purchases. Earn once when you buy and again as you pay. That's cash back now and cash back again later. It's cash back deja vu. The Citi Double Cash Card, the only card that lets you earn cash back twice on every purchase, with 1% when you buy and 1% as you pay. With 2 ways to earn, it makes a lot of other cards seem one-sided.
I thought I married an Italian.
My lineage was the Vecchios and Zuccolis. Through ancestry to the DNA, I found out that I was only 16% Italian.
He was 34% Eastern European. So I went on to Ancestry, soon learned that one of our ancestors we thought was Italian was Eastern European.
This is my ancestor I didn't know about. He looks a little bit like me, yes.
Ancestry has many paths to discovering your story. Get started for free at Ancestry.com.
You can plan all you want, but Mother Nature's going to dictate what happens.
We better hurry. That is one heck of a storm building.
There's $1 million hidden under there.
Oh my God, look at that! Oh. Black.
I am the blue!
All new episodes of Prospectors, Sunday nights at 9.
I'm a realtor for a really simple reason. I just love working with people and helping them to find the perfect property. Well, don't get me wrong, the commissions are great too. But for me, it's most rewarding when I walk into a customer's new home and they turn to me and say, Vince, you know what? We love it here more than we ever expected. That's my ultimate payment.
I'm Vince Marotta. Give me 30 minutes and I believe I can earn your business. Your journey begins at MarottaRealty.com.
Scorsese finally wins.
Could you double check the envelope?
Best Actress, 1984.
And I can't deny the fact that you like me.
Life is like a box of chocolates.
You never know what you're gonna get.
We're gonna need a bigger boat.
Xfinity X1 lets you access the greatest library of Oscar moments simply by using your voice. Live Oscar Sunday, February 28th on ABC.
What? Tomorrow on AMHQ, snow and cold greet the voters in New Hampshire as they head out to the polls. Will it have an effect on the turnout? Plus, the flakes will fly into the south. Just how far below the Mason-Dixon line will they go?
Currently in our area, 65 degrees under mostly cloudy skies. Tonight, partly cloudy early with increasing clouds overnight. Slight chance of a rain shower. Low 53. Tuesday, mostly cloudy. High 65. Winds west at 15 to 25 miles per hour. Tuesday night, mainly cloudy. Low 48. Winds west at 10 to 20 miles per hour. Here's our 7-day outlook.
It's amazing out there. Your weather photos proving it every single day. Check out this sky over Warwick, New York. Not only do you have the sun and the ice clouds around, but you've got the perfect 22-degree halo all the way around the sun. A bit of a sundog, that square rainbow-ish coloring on the sides of the sun. We call that a sundog. Atmospheric optics, always amazing. Always great when you guys can send that one in. And of course, coming up in our Picture This segment, you may know what these clouds are called. You may not. But do you know that they also tell us all about what the weather is doing at the time and the conditions in the sky?
That is a good one. Carl just realized what it was. I was like, when I saw them.
We're going to break it down for the people in this room and for you just ahead. So don't go anywhere. And now it's time to sound off, where we get to hear directly from you guys your questions coming in on social media. And our social meteorologist, Ryan Davidson, behind the bar, reading off the questions tonight.
Great questions coming in. First one is from Weather Geek 2003. What causes disturbances to track east to west, opposite the direction of the jet stream, and when did it last occur?
Okay.
When did it last occur?
And it's occurring now, basically.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically whenever you got a big ridge in the atmosphere and you get the flow backing, essentially, and going back in the other direction.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a ridge. I mean, that low in the Ohio Valley has been slowly backing from, let's say, western Pennsylvania back into Ohio. It's cut off from the flow.
Yeah, I mean, well, usually there's an upper ridge involved somewhere.
Sure.
Yes.
Like on the West Coast now, I was just looking at the models last night, and I was just like, wow, look at that. And we've seen these on the West Coast, too, with that big ridge that we've had, and now it's built back. There's actually a little disturbance that kind of rotates around the ridge, and then it comes back around. It's this little glob of green that kind of hovers around the West Coast there. So, yeah, that's it can happen, and we've seen them.
And that's something we're seeing more of in recent years. We're seeing more ridging and more cutoff lows. Yeah. There's been an increase, a demonstrable increase in those things.
Whenever anything's kind of broken away from that jet stream pattern, which is the conveyor belt to move everything, it can just sit there or back up.
And so your weather lasts a lot longer.
Exactly. Yeah.
The next question is coming from Connor, and Connor asks, with the current pattern, could the Northeast have the same type of winter like past El Nino years, 1982, 83, 97, 98?
So the current pattern isn't very El Nino-like at all.
No, it really is not. And, you know, for the longest time we saw what's called the blowtorch, where you had this really warm ridge across central North America, and it wasn't all that cold. Well, that has actually just flipped in the last couple of weeks, and it's so interesting because, you know, we thought that El Nino would just dominate because it's so strong. And what may be happening is that El Nino is probably expanding a little bit to the north. So the whole area of tropical convection is expanding a little to the north. The area of subsidence is expanding a little to the north. And the jet stream is expanding a little to the north, so they've been tending to get more weather coming into the northwestern part of the U.S. But now that ridging's building way up into western North America, and honestly, I don't really know exactly why that is. I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, it certainly looks a lot like something that we saw last year and a lot of last year.
And the biggest problem with that is that it's basically setting up a wall where these systems they cannot break through it. Now, the ridge tends to break down a little bit in the next week or so, and then like one little system sneaks by, but ultimately just builds right back. So what that does downstream, that gives us a big trough, and that's why all these systems just ride up and over and down and boom, right on the East Coast, and they bomb out. So that's, if we don't see this slip back, we could see more of that.
Ryan, you got another one?
The next question is from Tyler, and they ask, how much snow could Pittsburgh see through Wednesday?
Snowfall maps. I mean,
I think just a few inches, something like that.
It all depends on if they get caught in that inverted trough.
They're going to get a little bit from Nasio for sure.
Right.
I'm going to guess maybe 1 to 3 right now. What? Nope, there's the
There
map.
we go. So yeah, that's
Okay,
again, 1 to 3.
1 to 3, 3 to 5. I wasn't far off.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for sending in the questions. We appreciate it. And if yours wasn't listed now, you'll get back to it through the rest of the show. Keep sending them in. And the nightmare, not over for thousands of cruise ship passengers stuck on the high seas. A vessel now headed back to port after a popular cruise liner says it got caught up in an unexpectedly strong storm. Well, the storm wasn't a surprise to us, so coming up, we'll explain what we knew before the ship even set off to sea. You don't want to miss it.
This just got interesting. Why pause to take a pill? Or stop to find a bathroom? Cialis for daily use is approved to treat both erectile dysfunction and the urinary symptoms of BPH, like needing to go frequently, day or night. Tell your doctor about all your medical conditions and medicines and ask if your heart is healthy enough for sex. Do not take Cialis if you take nitrates for chest pain or Adeptus for pulmonary hypertension, as it may cause an unsafe drop in blood pressure. Do not drink alcohol in excess. Side effects may include headache, upset stomach, delayed backache, or muscle ache. To avoid long-term injury, get medical help right away for an erection lasting more than 4 hours. If you have any sudden decrease or loss in hearing or vision, or any symptoms of an allergic reaction, stop taking Cialis and get medical help right away. Ask your doctor about Cialis and a $200 savings card.
My clear solution for pain? Salonpas Jet Spray, powered by 2 medicines. Salonpas sprays on clear, dries fast, and provides up to 8 full hours of relief.
Salonpas, powerful relief when and where you need it.
The cold truth is, if a cold keeps you up at night, you can't work from home the next day. That's why you need Alka-Seltzer Plus Day-Night Liquid Gels. Its tough cold symptom fighters provide powerful relief. Relief that helps you sleep at night and gets you back out there during the day. Alka-Seltzer Plus Day-Night Liquid Gels. Also available in stores, Alka-Seltzer Plus Nighttime Hot Drink Mix.
Breaking wind and average fleece. Breaking wind and Duluth Trading Shoreman's Fleece. Duluth Trading Shoreman's Fleece. 3 gust-busting layers, 1 beefed-up fleece. Get one only at DuluthTrading.com.
Soup and sandwich, and clean and real. And feeling good, sort of. And 500 calories or less. The clean pairings menu at Panera, food as it should be.
I am never getting married.
Never.
Guaranteed.
You picked a beautiful ring.
Thank you. We're never having kids.
Breathe. Pillow the ear.
We are never moving to the suburbs. We are never getting one of those. We're never having another kid.
I'm pregnant.
I'm never letting go.
For all the nevers in life, State Farm is there.
All we need to sell Strongbow Hard Cider is ice. Oh, and an award for best tasting hard cider. You're in our shot.
No, I'm not.
Strongbow!
If you're looking to save money on your Medicare Part D prescriptions, Walgreens says Carpe Med Diem. Seize the day to get more out of life and Medicare Part D. Just switch to Walgreens for savings that'll be the highlight of your day. Now preview the cost of your copay before you fill. You can even get $1 copays on select plans. Walgreens, at the corner of happy and healthy.
This is Peloton, the indoor cycling experience designed to happen in your home. Only Peloton allows you to take high-energy live and on-demand studio cycling classes without having to go anywhere. Ride live with some of the best studio cycling instructors in the country. Ride flexible with thousands of on-demand rides. Ride connected alongside riders from all around the world. This is fitness evolved. This is Peloton.
You want to win a gold medal in Berlin?
You better.
In a place of hatred,
We must not go to these games.
I got people looking at me for an example.
I don't care about any of that. Yeah, well, you're white. You don't have to. You better.
Jesse Owens had the courage to inspire the world. On that track, ain't no black and white. There's only fast and slow. Race, rated PG-13.
Closed captioning brought to you by California Walnuts.
What makes this the best simple dinner ever? Great tasting, heart-healthy California walnuts. So simple. Get the recipes at walnuts.org.
It is a winter wonderland across parts of New England right now. The snow, courtesy of Winter Storm Mars, blanketed the town of Exeter, New Hampshire today. Fierce winds and snow was impacting travel across the Northeast. We had some flights delayed or even canceled for New York to Boston. Travel on some of the highways was pretty tricky. If you didn't have to go anywhere with the trees flocked in snow, it actually is a pretty nice scene. But it all depends on what you had planned for today and if you can make it to the primaries for the midnight voting that starts off in New Hampshire. So that's
midnight voting, that's a thing.
It is, only for one town.
For one town, all right. Well,
but it starts off.
You know, hey, some people are ready to get out there. It's just like a movie premiere, you know. It's like, nope, I want to be the first to do it and say it was me, you know. So, and the thing is, the good news is they're going to kind of actually end up in between two weather systems potentially. You know, last week we were talking about maybe a big snowstorm hitting all of New Hampshire, and they're like, well, that could impact the thing. But, you know, it looks like the election might go off okay. Nothing too out of the ordinary from what they're used to seeing. But Mars, that's going to eventually exit off to the northeast, but not before we get some more blizzard conditions here for maybe another couple of hours potentially here out on the Cape, and then snow will eventually start to push out into the overnight hours. And Mark, Boston's still getting the snow. They've been getting it pretty much all day long.
And several cities outside of Boston did already hit blizzard criteria, right?
Yes, they did. Now, I'd have to go back and see if they did it for the 3-hour period, because that's what an official blizzard is. They have to meet the 35 mile per hour sustained winds, less than a quarter mile visibility for 3 hours. So we'll see if they've done that. And then we'll go back and let's see if we can forecast this for a little bit. And actually, I've got a little RPM right behind this. We're going to use to time this out. And as we move forward, so we're going to watch this into the overnight hours. So right now, the remainder of your rush hour for the few people that unfortunately did have to go to work today, the snow is eventually going to start to push out of Boston later this evening. So you'll start to dry out, but still very cold out behind that snow. But Mark, Maine continues to get some snowfall over the next several hours and into the overnight hours, and maybe even still an issue for the morning commute tomorrow. Again, for anybody that gets stuck out on the roads, but hopefully you got to stay home and stay off the roads, because we know it doesn't take that much for some major accidents to happen.
Sure. So from basically upstate New York across Vermont, New Hampshire to Maine, still some light snow through the morning hours.
Yeah, and then early in the morning, you know, heading to the polls out there, looking pretty good. Maybe just a few lingering clouds, and then some maybe lingering road conditions there, a little bit icy for some spots. Up into Maine, maybe still as much as 5 to 6 inches forecast for some portions of northeast Maine there, maybe around Bangor. So we'll be watching that.
Definitely something to keep an eye on. And now that same storm system was in the ocean, right? That nightmare at sea for passengers on the Royal Caribbean's Anthem of the Seas. The ship sailed directly into Winter Storm Mars when it was off the Carolina coast and encountered hurricane-force winds, massive 30-foot waves. You're looking at some of the damage from inside the ship. At least 4 people were hurt, and so the ship decided to turn around, head back towards Cape Liberty, New Jersey, where the cruise all started. Looks like they're due back on Wednesday. So the cruise line says that the ship encountered an unexpectedly severe storm off Cape Hatteras. However, that's not necessarily true. The marine forecast back on Wednesday first noted the risk of strong winds and waves. In fact, on this very show last Wednesday, we were detailing the upcoming coastal storm for the weekend. This is video of Mike and Carl in the lab highlighting the impacts from the coastal storm, including the risk of the strong wind and waves from the Carolina coast up through New England. So we're working to talk to a passenger live on the Anthem of the Seas. We're going to have that coming up. That said, we want to go into the meteorology that's behind this storm, what we knew when we knew it. So we got Sarah, we got Carl. Let's start talking about basically the timeline, how this all started coming together.
Yeah, we went into, mid to late last week where we started forecasting this very busy pattern. We had a series of low pressure systems. The models were trying to take one of those in the middle, which ended up being our coastal storm, straight out to sea. But then the models sort of started trending, hey, they're actually going to be a little bit closer to land. But now all the while, Mark, and Carl, as you pointed out, that there was an area of low pressure there that was going to be strengthening. No matter where it went, these coastal waters were likely going to be impacted by a strong storm with wind gusts easily 40 to 50 miles per hour.
Yeah, this is showing up in the modeling for a long time, and we want to point out that the National Weather Service did a really, really good job forecasting this event. So here,
just nailed it.
They nailed it. This is their forecast on Wednesday. On Wednesday for Sunday night, they're forecasting seas of 21 to 29 feet. Now we'll take a look at the forecast that came out from the National Weather Service on Thursday. This was issued a day later, and they've upped their forecast a little bit. 23 to 31 foot waves on Sunday night in that that very area where we saw waves of 30 feet and higher.
And that is for those offshore waters, the same ones that the cruise line was basically sailing into.
Yeah, and they had good reason to believe that too. We can also show you what was going on in the modeling. And so here is the forecast model that came out on Friday for Sunday night, and obviously we see a huge area of strong winds there, and we can go back through each of these model runs. This is each morning. This is the European model. There's Thursday, same story, huge wind event showing up. Wednesday, same story, big wind event offshore showing up. Tuesday, same story there, not quite as strong, but it's very much showing up. So there were some differences in the modeling, especially between the European and the GFS, but as you mentioned, all the models were showing that there was something there, and the worst case scenario was essentially what ended up happening. Basically, the Euro had it. Yeah.
And Sarah, you know that those cruise lines are well accustomed to looking for these types of big storms in their sail path during the summer when it's a hurricane off the East Coast.
Right. Yeah. You know, there's. It's very difficult to say that there's a fine time where you're not going to encounter any bad weather here because, you know, during hurricane season, yes, you're going to have to be the unlucky one to find yourself in a hurricane, but they're still possible all along there. And if you find yourself in one of these, you misforecast those. We already spoke about, I forget, was it the El Camino ship that sank in Hurricane Joaquin earlier this year? El Faro, sorry, El Faro that sank in Joaquin earlier this year. So, I mean, that was a Category 4 hurricane. You know, winds 135, 45 miles per hour. So we know that bad things happen when these ships go through troubled weather. So these passengers were really lucky just for a few to have minor injuries.
Yeah, you know, it's hard to understand, too, because when you think about shipping, well, they've got a directive to get from point A to point B as quickly as they can. So there's a lot of incentive for them to push on through. Whereas in the case of a cruise ship, it doesn't do them any good to go into something like that. I mean, your reputation is everything. So I'm not sure what was going on. And I'm sure they have meteorologists. So I'm just wondering, you know, what exactly they were thinking about in that case.
Yeah, so we actually did reach out to them for a statement about this whole event, and we're still waiting to hear back from Royal Caribbean and their spokespeople. In fact, they said that Anthem of the Seas will turn around and sail back to Cape Liberty, New Jersey. And at that point, this decision was made due to the weather forecasted for the next few days that is likely to impact the ship's original itinerary and then their return back from the Bahamas. So they're saying these passengers have had enough. We're going to get them back to safety and try to make good from here on out.
Yeah, so let's hope that next time, whatever. And the thing too is, like, we don't know when they can make that decision. Okay, we can't. Do they have to wait for an official warning? Do they have to wait for an official something? I mean, who knows? I mean, even if they're just looking at the forecast, maybe there's something different. We'll have to talk to them about
and for more details on what actually occurred on the ship, we're going to be talking to a passenger that was on it, so stay tuned for that. And now over to Keith Carson for a check of your weather right now.
Yeah, they definitely have their own meteorologists. I'm sure it's about money. All right, guys, let's talk about what's going on across the southeast, where we have some snow in through Nashville. Just snow flurries right now, but we're going to be watching tomorrow night for a possibility of some accumulating snowfall. Not big stuff, but in through southern parts of Tennessee, in through northern parts of Georgia. That's where I live. Georgia. There we are. I was just blanking on something. Anyways, Chattanooga's seeing some mixing over here. We do have some rain showers on the front end of this thing in through Atlanta. It will start as rain, and then we'll see that colder air move in. It's going to be chilly tonight as it cools down. Right now it's 47, but look at Nashville, 34. Here come your snow showers. Again, not a big deal during the day, but tomorrow night we could be dealing with a little bit. Tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, maybe a ½ inch on the higher end, an inch across northern Georgia and southern parts of Tennessee. So not big accumulations by a lot of people's standards, but of course we're talking about the southeast, so it may be a problem there. Winter weather advisories posted there and up in through Tennessee as well. I'm not sure if it's all right, Mark. There you go.
Yeah, and Keith, our best videos. Keith will be back. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Best videos of the day around the corner in the six-pack, including a race down this snowy hill. Check it out.
These little guys, they represent blood cells. And if you have AFib, an irregular heartbeat that may put you at 5 times greater risk of stroke, they can pool together in the heart, forming a clot that can break free and travel upstream to the brain, where it can block blood flow and cause a stroke. But if you have AFib that's not caused by a heart valve problem, Pradaxa can help stop clots from forming. Pradaxa was even proven superior to warfarin at reducing the risk of stroke in a clinical trial without the need for regular blood tests. And in the rare event of an emergency, Pradaxa is the only oral blood thinner other than warfarin with a specific reversal treatment to help your body clot normally again.
Pradaxa is not for people who have had a heart valve replacement. Don't stop taking Pradaxa without talking to your doctor. Stopping increases your risk of stroke or blood clots. Ask Ask your doctor if you need to stop Pradaxa before any planned medical or dental procedure. Pradaxa can cause serious and sometimes fatal bleeding. Don't take Pradaxa if you have abnormal bleeding, and seek immediate medical care for unexpected signs of bleeding like unusual bruising. Pradaxa may increase your bleeding risk if you're 75 or older, have kidney problems, stomach ulcers, a bleeding condition, or take certain medicines. Side effects with Pradaxa can include indigestion, stomach pain, upset, or burning.
Don't just go with the flow. Go with Pradaxa, the only blood thinner that lowers your risk of stroke better than warfarin and has a specific reversal treatment. Talk to your doctor about Pradaxa today.
We're the hottest young company around, but if we want to keep the soda pop flowing, we need fresh ideas.
Got it. We slow, we die.
What about cashing out? No, I'm trying to build something here.
How about using FedEx Ground for shipping? I don't need some kid telling me how to run a business. I've been doing this for 4 long months.
FedEx Ground can help us save money and deliver fast to our customers.
Not bad, kid. You remind me of a younger me.
Aiden, the dog's eating your retainer again.
Let's take a short 5-minute recess.
FedEx Ground is faster to more locations than UPS Ground.
We brought you here today to get your honest opinion about this new car. To keep things unbiased, we removed all the logos.
Feels like a BMW. Reminds me a little bit of an Audi.
So this car supports Apple CarPlay.
Siri, open maps. Wow. She gets me.
It also has teen driver technology. It even mutes the radio until the seatbelts are buckled.
I'm very curious what it is.
This is the 2016 Chevy Malibu.
And it sells for?
It starts at $22,500.
What? Oh, wow. I mean, all this technology.
That's a game changer.
You owned your car for 4 years. You named it Brad. You loved Brad. And then you totaled him. You two had been through everything together. 2 boyfriends, 3 jobs. You're like, nothing can replace Brad. Then Liberty Mutual calls. And you break into your happy dance.
If you sign up for Better Car Replacement, we'll pay for a car that's a model year newer with 15,000 fewer miles than your old one. See car insurance in a whole new light. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
All we need to sell Strongbow Hard Cider is ice. Oh, and an award for best tasting hard cider. You're in our shot.
No, I'm not.
Strongbow.
Don't miss Founders Days at Pep Boys. Get 5 quarts of Castrol or Pennzoil conventional oil plus a Fram oil filter for only $9.99 after mail-in rebate. And when you buy 3 select tires, you get the 4th free instantly. Trust the boys to get you there.
Now you can create your own tour of Italy at Olive Garden, starting at $12.99. Choose 3 of 10 favorites to enjoy on one plate, plus unlimited salad and breadsticks. The best tour of Italy is the one you create at Olive Garden.
Here's something new. Now you can get the Weather Channel forecasts on the new LL Bean app. Just tap, shop, and discover. The new app from LL Bean, featuring forecasts from the Weather Channel. Download today.
They say when Mr. Clean saw all the different things his new smartphone does, it reminded him of his magic eraser. It's not just for marks on walls. It's tough on kitchen grease and bathroom grime, too. He's your all-around tough cleaner, Mr. Clean.
All right, time now for the video. 6-pack. Keith Carson back, even though he didn't want to leave last time for some 6-pack.
You get the best videos. Sense. Like, I knew I was being wrapped, but I couldn't hear anything.
Exactly.
All right, we got our best videos all over the place today, and some are actually fun, which I enjoy.
Fun is good.
This probably wasn't fun for the people who it happened to. Check this out. This is Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Reminds me of one of those Allstate Mayhem commercials. You might not be covered if you park your car on ice and it falls through. 15 vehicles went through this, partially submerged in water. I don't know how many of those they were able to salvage, but not a good situation there. All right, let's go on to number 5. This is really interesting. In Canton, Massachusetts, power lines sparked and fell due to icy, windy conditions and caused a small fire in the snow, which may be the first time I've seen that unintentionally. People do it like in a bonfire, drink some beers kind of way, but not by mistake. I think they got that under control. Luckily, no one really around there. Number 4, Angel Fire Resort in New Mexico this weekend. This is something for everyone, right? 100 competitors waxed up their snow shovels and went down as fast as 65 miles an hour. Here's a fun fact for you. none of these men are going to have children after this.
Nothing bad can happen from that.
This seems totally reasonable to be doing that. Number 3, Winter Storm Mars hits Plymouth. Earlier today, we had our Mike Seidel there. Plymouth, always a very exposed place for nor'easters. They get the big waves, they get the straight winds. It's very flat out there, and that's why it makes for some good video, but some rough times during nor'easters. All right, as usual, we want you to pick tonight's best videos. Here are your choices. We have another view of that thin ice situation where the cars went through, or we have rough seas here. So you can vote. Woo TV is our Twitter, and we've got a poll for you. Ryan, what do we got so far on the poll result?
About 70-30.
All right, the rough seas is pretty awesome. On thin ice, I think since we already have it covered, they're sitting at 30%. Still have about an hour, though, for you to vote. Mark?
Thanks, Keith. And of course, you've heard us covering the Nightmare at Sea, the Royal Caribbean cruise ship that sailed right into Winter Storm Mars and the hurricane-force winds off the Carolina coast. So, in the last 5 minutes, we have been just now receiving new responses from Royal Caribbean. And we want to bring those to you because their communication is obviously coming out full force, right? It says the weather the ship experienced was greater than what was forecasted. So I don't know who's giving them their forecast. We're going to continue to talk about this throughout the show. In fact, right now, Karina Wright joining us live on Skype, still aboard the Anthem of the Seas. Karina, we just need to know a little bit more about what you guys were told along the way and really what you experienced as it was happening.
Well, we were told on the first day that there was a projected storm. It's, 60, 70 miles an hour, which admittedly is cautious, but because cruise ships do that, on transatlantic crossings, I've hit that. It's a thing to be cautious about, but not necessarily to be worried about. I mean, worried clearly, but not, panicky or anything. It's a thing that happens. When we got to about 2:33 o'clock on, today's Monday, Sunday afternoon, all of a sudden we're watching a show, and it was, it was a little rocky, and all of a sudden, boom, it was within like half hour, 45 minutes, it became rocky to, oh dear God, please I'll go back to the cabin, that's fine. No, you don't have to tell me twice. And it stayed and just kept getting worse and worse. It was not an expected event. I mean, we all knew it was going to be a little rocky. It was going to the weather was something, but it became violent really, really, really quickly. I'm not really sure, given that there was really no place we could have gone. We couldn't go back. We were too far south of Norfolk, which I think is probably the only place that would be big enough to handle our size ship. I'm not really sure much more he could do besides what he did, which was pretty much save our lives and our ship. And, it worked out really well, although it was terrifying, honest to God.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways you sound thankful that the captain did what he did, yet just walking around the cruise ship had to be difficult at that point.
Yeah, it was. No, it absolutely was. And it was kind of funny because I was talking to somebody today who was on the starboard side of the same deck I'm on, and I'm on the port side. And for him to go from the front door to his bed, it was like a downhill slope. It was probably about 10, 15 degree list, or what list is apparently not the right word from what I've been reading, but a 10 or 15 degree list going up, down. And for me, I could get from my bed to the door really, really quickly. But getting back from the door, or I was supposed to be frank, back to the bed, it was like walking up a fairly steep hill. So it was an interesting experience. And for the first several hours, it was genuinely scary. After a while, the seas hadn't changed, but you kind of got used to it. I mean, because it had just been that way for so long, and we had TV, we had free movies, we watched the Super Bowl, which stunk. I'm sorry. and we eventually about 2 o'clock or so, we felt everything sort of calmed down.
All right, Karina, I'm glad that it's calmer now, and good luck in the rest of the travels. Thanks for joining us. An amazing adventure. Coming up, we're going to continue to picture this, some fantastic images. We'll break this down next.
Life as a spokesbox is great. People love me for saving them over $500,000 when they switched to Progressive. So I'm dabbling in new ventures. It was board game night with the Dalai Lama. Great guy, terrible player. Go paperless, don't stress, girl. I got the discounts that you need. Safe drive. It's a balancing act, but I gotta give the people what they want. More bucks.
Any words for the critics?
What can I say? Critty's gonna neg.
What?
All we need to sell Strongbow Hard Cider is ice. Oh, and an award for best tasting hard cider. You're in our shot.
No, I'm not.
Strongbow.
It's amazing out there means to me the wonder and the wow of weather.
Everything is amazing.
It means looking up and being inspired, even if it's just straight up blue skies. I mean, how beautiful is that? That little burst of red that happens when the sun comes right over the ocean.
Watching lightning streaking across the sky.
And the roll of the thunder, it's just one of the most amazing things.
Every single day is going to be something spectacular. It is truly amazing out there.
Currently in our area, 64 degrees under mostly cloudy skies. Tonight, partly cloudy early with increasing clouds overnight. Slight chance of a rain shower. Low 53. Tuesday, mostly cloudy. High 65. Winds west at 15 to 25 miles per hour. Tuesday night, mainly cloudy. Low 48. Winds west at 10 to 20 miles per hour. Here's our 7-day outlook.
If you have high blood pressure like I do, many cold medicines may raise your blood pressure. That's why there's Coricidin HBP. It relieves cold symptoms without raising blood pressure. So look for powerful cold medicine with the heart. Coricidin HBP.
At Safelite, we know how busy your life can be.
Oh, no.
This mom didn't have time to worry about a cracked windshield, so she scheduled at Safelite.com. And with Safelite's exclusive On My Way text, she knew exactly when I'd be there. Hi, Steve with Safelite.
Thanks for your text.
I replaced her windshield, and she didn't miss a single shot, giving you more time for what matters most. How'd you do?
We won.
Nice. That's another Safelite advantage.
So much.
Safelite Repair, Safelite Replace.
I thought I married an Italian.
Did the Ancestry DNA to find out I'm only 16% Italian.
So I went on to Ancestry. Soon learned that one of our ancestors was Eastern European.
This is my ancestor I didn't know about.
Lots of vitamins A and C, and only 50 calories a serving. Good morning indeed. V8. Veggies for all.
With the pain and swelling of my moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis, ordinary objects often seemed intimidating.
Doing something simple meant enduring a lot of pain.
If RA is changing your view of everyday things, Orencia may help. Orencia works differently by targeting a source of RA early in the inflammation process. For many, Orencia provides long-term relief of RA symptoms. It's helped new RA patients and those not helped enough by other treatments. Do not take Orencia with another biologic medicine for RA due to an increased risk of serious infection. Serious side effects can occur, including fatal infections. Cases of lymphoma and lung cancer have been reported. Tell your doctor if you're prone to or have any infection like an open sore, the flu, or a history of COPD, a chronic lung disease. Orencia may worsen your COPD. If you're not getting the relief you need, ask your doctor about Orencia. Orencia. See your RA in a different way.
22.
Tomorrow on AMHQ, snow and cold greet the voters in New Hampshire as they head out to the polls. Will it have an effect on the turnout? Plus, the flakes will fly into the south. Just how far below the Mason-Dixon line will they go?
All right, it's time to picture this, where we choose a great photo and point out all the cool weather features that you might not be able to see at first glance. And today's shot elicited some oohs and ahs from the studio crowd. That's how I know I found a good one. But it's from Kendall, Florida. Bill Sloan sent in this amazing, amazing weather photo. What's happening here? You can tell a lot about the weather picture. First, in order to get clouds, you have some rising air. And I think those clouds are actually just off in the distance, not actually down a mountain or anything. It's Florida, for goodness sake. There's not a lot lot of height. So we've got these gravity waves, right? Sinking air, you get blue sky, then rising air in between where you get the clouds. But that's not the only feature, right? On top of this cloud deck, we have a Kelvin-Helmholtz instability. It forms these wave clouds. It looks just like an ocean wave, right? That works the same way as an ocean because you have this extra instability. Fast winds moving aloft, kind of pushing those waves over, and then slower winds underneath in the same direction. That's how you get that wave action. Just an unbelievable example of the Kelvin-Helmholtz instability, which I don't think anyone in the room had ever seen on top of what potentially is a cloud deck from a gravity wave. A lot of terms there, but pretty cool. Forms in a stable air mass. Just a great example.
I mean, those look like waves.
Yeah.
Like sometimes they look like clouds, but those look like waves on the ocean.
Actually
That's
breaking,
awesome.
Yeah, same mechanics as ocean waves.
And it's happening in Florida, so potentially you could have seen ocean at the same time as seeing the waves. You could have seen both waves at the same time.
In the air. Well, and too, you know, you've got more available moisture there in Florida, so you know, I've never seen that thick of a cloud deck, and it really that thick of a KH wave either. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So
pretty incredible. And we want to keep being oohed and awed by what you guys send in, and so we're going to go to Sounding Off, where you get to send in your questions and we get to try to answer them. And Ryan behind the bars fielding the questions today.
And the first one is coming from LI Weather, asking, what's the difference between an inverted trough and a Norland trough?
It's one of the best questions in all of weather.
Well, I don't think there's a really big difference. I think a Norland trough is basically a subset of an inverted trough.
Yes.
And an inverted trough is basically just a trough that extends to the north from an area of low pressure. So the pressure is actually getting lower going from north to south, which is the opposite of a regular trough. And a Norland trough is something that we see oftentimes in the northeast coast and also the mid-Atlantic region, where you've got a little feature that just extends inland. And with that, they're kind of sneaky. You can get a lot more snow than you think sometimes from those features.
Smaller scale and often connected back to another area of low pressure further to the west. I think that what helps make the difference. Ryan?
This question I absolutely love.
Okay.
This one is coming from Harry Melvin.
All right.
When strong winds hit my old house, the water level in my toilet bowl decreases. Is this a barometric pressure effect?
Whew. Water in the toilet bowl?
I know exactly what it is.
I believe that is because the toilet has a vent in order to be able to flush. And so when you have those strong winds, it's actually pushing air back down that vent the wrong way, which I think is also a sign of something wrong.
It'll suck it up because you've got that fast air moving over it, so it's evacuating the vent.
Well,
so it's pulling the water up the house, so we'll be pulling it out of the toilet.
Interesting.
It's really
I believe that it also means that something is not sealed fully, and it may be part plumbing problem, part weather.
Huh. Interesting. So you see that with chimneys too, when you've got a fire going, get a roaring fire on a really windy day. Yeah.
All right, one more.
All right, this one from Danny. How does that first low whip up the sea so fast? Those waves looked wicked.
From the cruise line.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you've got such a low pressure, I mean, that's going to generate wind. Then the wind acts just like if you took your hand. A lot of times you'll talk about Dr. Forbes. You know, you'll hear Dr. Forbes saying if you were to take your hand in a bathtub and just go with the water, it all shoves to one side of the bathtub. The winds do the exact same thing, and the longer distance that those winds do that for a longer period of time and strength, then the more water that picks up and pushes. Acts just like a hurricane does when it pushes that storm surge on shore. It literally is shoving the water.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it actually wasn't that quick. I mean, I think it had a good solid day to cook out there, but we weren't talking about it as much because it was offshore and it wasn't affecting anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Except a little.
We have time for one more question quickly. Massive. This is from Douglas. Double D Douglas. Massive El Nino seems to be a bust in California. Barely above average rain. Not anything like 97, 98.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's a bust in California in general. I mean, they've done pretty well in Northern California. The snowpack is now up to about 130% of average in the northern part of the state. Southern California definitely has not done as well, and we think everything has been shifted a little farther north this year, which may have something to do with the planet getting a little warmer, actually.
Great example that not every El Nino is built the same way as well.
Right.
And that ridge building back doesn't help.
All right. Keith, thanks for sending the questions, everybody. Keith, over to you. We've got some more weather headed towards the country right now.
Baltimore, taking a look at them, they got a winter storm warning in anticipation of Winter Storm Ignacio. I'm saying that right, Ignacio?
Yeah.
That's how you say it. All right, I just want to make sure before I say it wrong a bunch of times. Let's talk about what's going on here. That's the inverted Norland trough they were talking about, obviously. That's where the snow will come from, the Baltimore area. What do we got right now? Boston, snow, ice. Logan actually getting hit pretty hard with a couple of meso bands there. 2 hours and 32 minutes, relatively good. JFK, LaGuardia, seeing some low ceilings. They get that a lot. 58 minutes for the delay, but certainly Logan is going to be your worst spot right now. There it is. That storm system, pretty good bands of snow. It's interesting. One here, right off the coastline into the southeast shore, and then another one back here in towards Worcester, maybe out towards Framingham. So some of the in-betweens are actually not seeing that much snow. Got a report in the middle part of the state of only 2 inches or so. But there's that storm system moving out. We're going to see that inverted trough, that Norland trough moving in. Those are very hard to forecast, as we talked about, but there will be an area of enhanced snow as a result. Temperature certainly will be cool enough. So going forward, there goes Mars, and here comes this other low. The low itself is actually relatively baggy and not that well developed because this was such a bomb. It's going to be hard to get another big storm system right in the wake of it. But what we do have is a little bit of enhancement here between this low and this low up here across the Midwest. By the way, look at these temperatures. 2 below in Minneapolis. A well forecast cold streak coming from the Midwest and eventually down into the south as we head into Valentine's Day. The reason to snuggle up. Getting weird, huh? Getting weird. All right, 32 in Boston here over the 24 hours through Tuesday, 35 in New York. And again, certainly cold enough to be seeing snow. And there'll be some snow across parts of the Great Lake as well. That'll be a result of that first low over the Midwest. All right, Weather Underground not done yet as we bring you extended coverage of our latest winter storms, Mars and Natio.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Our extended edition of Weather Underground continues. I'm Mark Elliott, filling in tonight for Mike Bettis. Still lots to cover. Let's get into what's on tap tonight. We've got Mars on the move, nightmare cruise, and a new winter storm. And first, Mars on the move. Winter storm Mars has brought blizzard conditions to parts of the Northeast. The impacts are not over yet. We're tracking the latest snowfall totals and the coastal flooding threat. Also, I get a little bit seasick just looking at this. The Nightmare Cruise, one of the world's largest cruise ships, tossed around like a toy boat, slammed by high winds and waves. We'll ask the passengers about their scary experiences on board. And with the storm so well forecast, why couldn't the cruise line avoid this fiasco in the first place? And finally, Winter Storm Natio. Impacts from the latest winter storm could be felt as far south as Georgia, as far north as New York. We'll tell you how much snow is expected and when. But let's go back to our current storm, or at least one of the two. We've got Mars and dozens of people injured after their charter bus overturned on I-95 in Madison, Connecticut. This was a Dahlia charter bus headed to a Connecticut casino when it rolled over between an exit and an on-ramp. There were 2 to 3 inches of snow on the road at the time, and the highway had to be shut down for more than 4 hours. 55 people on the bus, half of them sought treatment for injuries, and 4 people in critical condition. Winter Storm Mars continuing right now, so we're bringing in storm specialist Sarah Dillingham. It is windy, it is snowy, we still have real impacts tonight.
Yeah, you know, we really do. I mean, we had blizzard conditions in these areas earlier this afternoon for Boston and areas out on the Cape. I mean, our poor Mike Seidel was just getting hammered out there.
Pummeled again.
On Plymouth, but you know, that's what they expect when you have these systems come through. Winds have died down now from what they were earlier today, thankfully. Gusts still about to 25 miles per hour out at Martha's Vineyard and out in Boston. There's still about 23 mile per hour gusts. And let's take a look at the visibilities because we know that's a function of whether or not we have a blizzard. And quarter mile visibility or less is that blizzard